Hello and welcome. Happy New Year. I am Jamie from ESL Teacher 365, and today I will be sharing how you can teach online in 2025. I know that this time of the year is when a lot of people are making goals and getting started with new things. So it could be for people who are new teachers, just getting into teaching online. Maybe you aren't quite sure what it's like and you want some information. Or maybe you are an in-person teacher looking to go online in 2025. This video will be helpful for you. So let's go ahead and get started today. I would love for you to leave a comment with where you are watching from, where in the world you are. I'm currently near Brisbane, Australia, so it's quite hot here. It is our summer. And also let me know your teaching experience. Are you a brand new teacher? Do you have some teaching experience, either in person or online? I would just like to get an idea of what it's like so I can create more content to help my audience, to help you out. And if you have any questions as we go through the training today, feel free to leave a comment because we will have live Q&A at the end, and I will try and get to as many questions as possible. Okay. Just to share a little bit about my own online teaching journey, if you've never met me before, you haven't done any of my courses or programs or workshops, who am I? This will give you a bit of information. So I would first like to say that everyone's journey is different. I started out as an in-person teacher, and I taught for about 7 years in person before jumping online. You may be just jumping online without any teaching experience, so don't try and compare your journey to my journey or to other people's journeys. They're all very, very different. I work with a lot of different teachers, and people are starting as career changers, new teachers fresh out of university, can all be very different. So I was working here in Australia in person, and unfortunately with 2020 and everything that happened, they had to kind of shut down my school and they couldn't hire anyone that was not an Australian resident. So suddenly I was abroad, our borders closed, and I had to do something. So I started teaching online. I first started with freelance teaching, and you'll find that this is a bit backwards. Most people start with online ESL companies and then kind of work their way towards freelancing. But if you do have previous teaching experience, feel free to just jump in as a freelancer. That is totally okay. I then jumped on a marketplace called OutSchool. I had a friend from high school who was teaching on there, and so I have actually been teaching on there for, I think, 4 years now. I teach ballet, and then now I test out different companies like Cambly. The latest one I've been working on is called Lingo Ace. So I have a lot of different experience. I've taught online in many different ways, so that's why I can help you get started. I've kind of tested it all out, tried everything. I've done live classes, companies, marketplaces, freelancing. I've done online courses. I coach teachers. I started a YouTube channel. I have a blog. So I've done a little bit of everything. And also I'm independent from companies. So no one is like telling me what to say. I do share the pros and cons of everything, and I don't hold back. Some of these online teaching companies can be very sketchy, and I let you know. And a lot of them also aren't great for non-native speakers either, but we'll talk about that later on. So let's look at the ways to teach online in 2025. The 3 main ways. There are a few other ways, but for most of you, you're probably just getting started. So we'll take a look at these. The first one, and probably the most popular, are the online ESL companies. These are best for new teachers because they're going to have the lowest requirements. They might not require a degree. They might not require you to have previous teaching experience. They usually just require a TEFL certificate. Some will require a degree, but the pay is low. So this is a good place to get started and get some experience, but it's not a good option for forever. Also, a lot of them don't hire non-native speakers. They'll have like certain passport requirements, like you have to have a US or Canadian passport to work for their company, for example. And the ones that do hire non-native speakers, often they'll pay you a fraction of what they're paying their native speakers. So I just recommend, if you're a non-native speaker, stay away from the companies, jump right into the marketplaces or freelancing, which we'll look at later on. The good thing about these online ESL companies is that they do usually provide you with materials. So they could have like slides that you're following or some sort of curriculum. And I would say that the lessons are typically like 25 minutes, 40 minutes, 60 minutes. It's pretty rare to see anything over maybe 90 minutes, but usually 25, 40, or 60 minutes. And you're just kind of following along the slides. You can log in a few minutes before you teach, maybe gather up some props that you have to go along with the lesson and teach. Pretty simple. I suggest applying to as many of these companies as you can. So what happens is they go on hiring freezes when they get too many teachers. And unfortunately, they're not going to tell you. A lot of the companies just like won't respond to applications. So I've had a lot of people that have applied to Cambly and they say, oh my gosh, it's been like 2 months, I haven't heard anything. Well, they're probably on a hiring freeze. Could be for your time zone, or sometimes the companies also suggest doing your application again. If there's some sort of video, doing your video again. So there could have been an issue with their application, or it could just be that they're on a hiring freeze. And unfortunately, they might not tell you. So just apply to as many as you are eligible for. Online teaching marketplaces would be kind of the next option. And this is in between companies and freelance teaching. You get to set your own prices, but the platforms are taking a commission on the lessons taught. And these are pretty high. It can be like 30%, maybe 18 to 33% is kind of average. And you can, of course, work on raising your prices. So the give and take is that, unlike freelancing where you have to find all of your students, you have to pay for the platform that you're using. For marketplaces, they are providing the messaging system, the teaching space that you're using. They're bringing students to you, but you are paying a big percentage of your pay towards the platform. So to give you an example, on OutSchool, the commission is 30%, so I get to keep 70%, but I basically do no marketing. I just have students kind of sign up whenever. For online teaching marketplaces, for the language ones, you might not have to make your own curriculum or purchase your own curriculum, but if you're teaching other subjects, you definitely have to create your own lessons. So you can either do something like creating them on Canva, or you can buy a curriculum subscription. So if you're interested in ESL teaching, you can look at things like ESL Brains, ESL Pals, Crystal Clear ESL, Off to Class. There's like a whole bunch of them now, but you need to have a commercial license to use these lessons because you are making money off of them. So just be a little bit careful. I personally, on marketplaces, always use my own materials that I create on Canva. For online teaching marketplaces, do understand that it takes time to build. It's not like you're going to apply and get hired and then suddenly you have a full schedule. You are going to be attracting students to your profile with a written profile and a video, and then students are deciding to maybe do a trial lesson with you or to sign up with you. So it's really important to slowly increase your reviews, make sure you have a lot of positive reviews, and then optimize your profile and video. And we'll talk a little bit about that later on. Freelance teaching, I think this can be a little bit confusing because I get a lot of emails that say, I want to freelance teach, what platforms can I apply to? That would be marketplaces. So for freelancing, you are setting up your own platform, you're setting up your own business. So depending on where you are based in the world, in the US, you might be setting up something like an LLC. I'm a sole trader here in Australia. You could also be an independent contractor, and you're going to want to hire an accountant because your tax situation is going to get a little bit tricky. But it is well worth it because you can charge a lot more as a freelancer. And if you're a non-native speaker, freelancing is a really good option as well because you can actually charge your worth. So when you're freelance teaching, you are going to want to have a specific teaching niche. So think about a specific topic within your subject. So you're not teaching just all levels of English, all ages. You want to focus on something specific. So for my freelancing classes, I focused on teaching the Cambridge exams, FCE and CAE. So that is quite niche. That is not teaching everyone. That is only working with those students preparing for those exams. And if you're wanting to earn a lot, then you need to look at which kind of niches are in demand and high paying as well. Freelance teaching takes a lot of trial and error. You're going to need to try targeting different audiences, different types of classes. So are you doing one-on-ones, small groups, pre-recorded, different price points? It's a lot of kind of testing things out until you find what works best for you. So I would love to know so far of everyone that's joining in, and if you're catching up on the replay, which of these 3 options are you most interested in? So online ESL companies, online teaching marketplaces, or freelance online teaching. So share with me in the comments which one you, or 1 or 2 or 3 that you're interested in. Okay, so far we have online ESL companies, marketplaces, marketplace and freelance, online ESL companies, freelancing, all 3. Excellent. So thank you so much for sharing. Okay, qualifications for online teaching. If you're interested in teaching ESL, these are some of the basic qualifications that different companies and marketplaces are looking for. If you're a freelancer, it's your business, so you can basically have whatever qualifications that you like, but it's nice for students that you're trying to attract to show that you have qualifications, obviously, or at least experience. So the basic one is going to be an accredited TEFL or TESOL certificate of at least 120 hours. So I get a lot of questions about, like, do I need a TEFL and do I need a TESOL? No, you do not. They're essentially the same. It just depends on if you're teaching in a native English speaking country or a non-native English speaking country, but the courses themselves are the same. And do make sure it's at least 120 hours, because there's a lot of courses out there that are like 40 or 60 or 80 hours. Not worth it. You want to get the 120-hour one. Some companies and marketplaces either require or maybe they prefer a bachelor's degree, and this is in any subject. So it doesn't need to be in education or English or anything like that. My bachelor's degree is in Spanish, and I've taught a lot of ESL, so it doesn't really matter. Previous teaching or tutoring experience may be preferred or required. So you'll find that some of the companies have kind of lower requirements and lower pay. Some of the ones that pay better are going to require you to have previous teaching experience, a degree, things like that. Also, some companies and marketplaces only hire specific passports, and you'll have 2 kind of options for these. Sometimes they will require you to have the passport to prove that you're a native English speaker, and sometimes they'll ask you to have a specific passport for residency reasons. So on OutSchool, for example, you have to be from the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the UK, Mexico, or South Korea. And that's because they do a background check and you need working rights in those places. So you don't need to be a native speaker, but you have to be legally able to work in those countries. For non-native speakers, you may be asked to prove your English level with an exam like IELTS, TOEFL, the Cambridge exams. So take a look at those. IELTS are only good for 2 years. Cambridge is good for life. So if you're looking at taking different English tests, take a look into those. There's also the Duolingo one, which is a lot more affordable, and more places are accepting that as well. For TEFL courses, if you haven't done yours yet and you only want to teach online, the one that I recommend the most is from the TEFL Academy. So you can go to my website, eslteacher365.com/TTA-TEFL. And I do have a discount code that you can use, ESL365, for an extra 10% off. If you're wanting to teach abroad as well as online, the course that I recommend most is the International TEFL Academy. This one is going to be a lot more expensive because it's more similar to a CELTA, but it does include job search assistance. So if you would like to get an extra $50 discount code, you will fill out the form. Very similar to the first one, just changing one letter. So eslteacher365.com/ITA-TEFL. So those are some courses. And if you have any questions about courses, I do have a lot of video reviews on my channel as well. For teaching other subjects, so I not only teach ESL online, I also teach ballet, I teach dance. So I was asked on some of my applications for some, certificates or licenses. I do have a license from teaching here in Australia, and I have a ton of experience. So that was kind of more important. They're looking for that professional experience as well. So if you're teaching other subjects, they may ask for a certificate, a license. They may ask for a degree in your subject area. Previous experience could be as a teacher or just as a professional. For language teachers, there are courses and certificates that are similar to a TEFL, but for that language. So like French has its own certificate, for example. Here are just some ideas if you're thought like, oh my gosh, I have to teach ESL when I'm teaching online. Not true. There's a lot of different ways to teach. So some of the most popular subjects are music, dance, acting, video editing, other languages, reading. There's a ton of different platforms for reading as well. And test prep is also really big. Think of like SATs or GREs, and finance and math tutoring as well. Okay, let's get into some of the tech needed to teach online. This is another kind of area where people feel like, oh, I don't know what I need to get started, or do I have things that are good enough? So we'll go over the basics. So the very basics that you need: a computer or a laptop with enough memory. So a lot of these platforms and companies will have like specific requirements of how much RAM it needs and all of that. So you can look at their application, but pretty much any modern computer will be fine. Do not teach from a tablet. A lot of these platforms have whiteboards and kind of interactive platforms, and they usually don't work very well with tablets, or you just are not able to teach from a tablet. That's part of the application, is you have to teach from a computer or laptop. So it doesn't need to be anything fancy. I first started teaching with a computer that we found on Facebook Marketplace for I think like $100. So it doesn't have to be anything super fancy. A comfortable headset and microphone. Some companies will require you to have a headset that has an attached microphone. I personally have a headset that's quite comfortable, and then I have a little clip-on microphone. So that's what I prefer to use, just because I do teach dance as well. I obviously can't be wired in, so this is the setup that works best for me. But you can definitely just get like a little USB microphone. I do have another one here. I use this sometimes, but it's very big and bulky. So if you're traveling and teaching, not the best option either. That's why these little clip-ons are nice. You'll need some sort of webcam. Again, doesn't need to be expensive. We started with a very cheap one, and now we have upgraded. Good lighting. So if you can teach in front of a window, that is best. If you can't, get some sort of ring light or box light. So the difference is the ring lights are quite bright. You can get ones that clip on or are on stands. I personally like box lights. I get migraines, so I like to have the kind of softer, diffuse light, so I'm not having any problems with that. You'll also want to have some sort of background, not showing your kitchen or, your messy room or whatever. And think about having a little setup that is appropriate for the age and the subjects taught. So I just have some like shelves and lights and fake plants and things like that. So that works for my ESL classes, for my YouTube videos as well, things like that. But if you're only teaching kids, you could have some bright posters in the background. You could have different stuffed animals, whatever you want to do. If you're teaching math, you might have a very different setup. So just think about how that would be for you. A little bit about my setup. So these days, definitely have gone through and kind of upgraded everything. So I have a laptop. I tried to see what it even was. I don't know. My partner does all the tech stuff, so he got it for me. I have a Rode Go wireless microphone. That's the one that I like to use. I've been using these ones for 4 years now. Fantastic. Highly recommend them. They're a little bit expensive if you plan on traveling and teaching, or you're doing some sort of movement, then definitely a good choice. My headset is a Bose headset, nice and comfortable. The webcam that I'm using is a Logitech one. They have a lot of different webcams at different price points, so check out that brand. I have some box lights. I do also have extra monitors. This is another thing that I would recommend if you kind of have all the basics and you're looking for one thing to upgrade, get an extra monitor, because that way you can look at your notes and look at your students at the same time. So when I teach ballet on OutSchool, I have all my students on a monitor up here. I have my classroom information, my music, and everything down on a different monitor. So that's very helpful. And if you're teaching kids, lots and lots of props. I have flashcards, I have like stuffed animals, I have little toys, I have things of different colors. Teaching kids, all of that stuff will be very, very helpful for you. So again, start with what you have. It doesn't have to be fancy. You just need to get going. Don't let the tech of it all kind of keep you from getting started. So if you're looking for some recommendations for teaching online or teaching abroad, you can go to my Amazon shop, amazon.com/shop/ESLteacher365. I have things kind of separated there, and you can take a look for some recommendations at different price points. For online teaching applications, we will look at what it looks like to apply to companies, marketplaces, and freelancing doesn't have an application, but I will share some tips for that. For online ESL companies, fill out all parts of the application. If you miss something, they might easily just reject your entire application, and then you've wasted your time. So triple check it, make sure you've included everything that they've asked for. Remember that there's a lot of teachers applying to these companies, so you want to make sure everything is perfect. Have copies of your degree and TEFL saved as PDFs on all of these different companies and marketplaces. They're asking you to upload a copy of your degree, your TEFL certificate. So just have those already saved. So that way, when you're going through the application process, you can just upload it there. And just a little extra tip, where can I apply to all these things? You'll go to the official website for that company, and then they will have like a Teach With Us button or something like that. So you're applying through the actual website. So you're not looking on like LinkedIn or anything like that. Only apply to companies you are eligible for. Read all of the application requirements first, because otherwise, honestly, you're just wasting your time. I've had teachers who say, oh, well, I want to apply and like maybe they'll accept me. They won't. They have their regulations. They have what they hire for. So if you don't fit what they're looking for, it's just kind of a waste of time. And be prepared to film an intro or demo video. And we will talk about how to do this later on in the training, but just know that as part of the application process, you will need to usually make either of these videos, and to kind of be prepared for that, have all your tech stuff ready. For online teaching marketplaces, again, read the instructions carefully, make sure that you fill out everything. I do suggest optimizing by choosing a niche. So this means that even though you're having this like profile and anyone can see it, you still want to have an area of focus. So this could be test prep, it could be business English. On the platforms that I work on, I say that I teach test prep. And most of the messages that I get from potential students are asking about test prep. So as they're scrolling through looking for teachers, they're not looking for teachers that teach all ages and all subjects. They're saying, okay, I need help with this specific test. They see my profile and then they contact me. So whatever it is that you want to focus on, medical English or hospitality English, try and choose some sort of niche. And that way you're going to stick out when they're scrolling through all of those platforms. If you are not kind of design savvy, maybe you're a bit intimidated by creating a video or a logo or making your picture optimized, you can use a site like Fiverr, and you can just get someone there to edit your video, add some subtitles, things like that. So that can be very helpful, and it's not very expensive. For online teaching marketplaces, don't set your prices too low or too high. You can look through the actual platform. So for example, if I want to teach on Preply, I can go through and look at some of the top teachers, see what they're charging, look at the reviews, see the feedback from the students. Obviously, I'm not going to start out with a new profile and charge what they're charging, but I can get an idea of kind of the highs and then look at the lows. What are people charging? Sometimes new teachers say, okay, I'll just charge $5 an hour. I don't recommend that, because that way your students think that maybe you don't know what you're doing, you're not valuing your time. So shoot for that kind of middle point. That's a better place to start. And then as you get more reviews, you teach more students, your schedule gets fuller, you can then raise your prices. For freelance teaching, there's no application, but you have to set up your business. That means what teaching platform you're using, how you're collecting payments, how students are booking your classes. You'll want to do some market research to make sure you are targeting an in-demand niche. So this means that, say that I want to teach Spanish-speaking doctors. Well, are Spanish-speaking doctors even going to pay for my classes? Is this something that they need? Is this in demand? Based on my time zone here in Australia, I don't know, is that a good idea? Maybe if I were based in the US, this would be a better option. So you need to make a little survey, try and find some people and see if this is actually going to be in demand. So there's a lot that goes into market research. I am creating a freelance course at the moment that will go over kind of how to do all of this stuff. So if you're interested in freelance teaching, watch for that coming out soon. Choose how you want to market. Are you going to use social media? Are you going to use ads, word of mouth? And also offer a freebie to build your email list. This could be something like a free trial class, a recorded class, a free guide, a checklist. And this way you are getting potential students' emails in exchange for your free item. And then that way, when you have a new course or you have new classes opening up, you have a whole email list of people to contact. If you are interested in freelance teaching, I do have a free guide, a free handbook that you can check out. And it is just at eslteacher365.com/handbook. And this really goes through kind of step-by-step how to get started as a freelancer. For intro and demo videos, so that could be for online ESL companies, could be for marketplaces. Also, if you're a freelancer, you might have a website where you want to create a video that shows a sample of your class or a little intro about yourself. So pretty much anyone can use these videos. So let's look at the intro video first. This is going to be a self-introduction that is usually seen by the platform for hiring purposes and also potential students. So not only are the admin going to see this, but they might post it up for potential students to see, and that's how they're choosing who their teacher is. Follow all of the directions, especially the time limit. Most of these are between probably like 1 to 5 minutes for a self-introduction. They're usually not very long, and they usually include information like where you're from, your experience and qualifications, what your class is like, and why students should join. So remember, this is kind of like a little ad for your classes. I see a lot of teachers do their videos and they just share like, these are my qualifications, my experience, some of my hobbies, but then they don't tell students what they're going to get out of their classes or what their class is like or why they should join it. So you need to think a little bit about how to entice your students to join. So for test prep, obviously I have experience helping students pass the exam. So I'm going to say I have X number of students that I've helped pass the exam. I'm highly qualified to help you achieve your goal of passing these exams. Book a class with me today. So you want some sort of call to action at the end of your intro video. Film horizontally. I have a lot of people who send me their intro videos for feedback. Don't do it vertically. You want to have it filmed horizontally so you can use your smartphone, that's fine, but make sure it's horizontal. You also want the camera to be stable. I get a lot of videos where it's very, very shaky, and that's just, no one's going to sign up with you if it's not looking good. So put it on a shelf, put it on a tripod. That way it's nice and stable. Check your lighting. Can you see your face? Is it nice and well lit? And check your sound as well. So just, you want a high quality video. It doesn't have to be perfect, but make sure it is watchable. If you go on some of these sites like Preply or italki and you scroll through, you'll see what I mean. There are some really, really bad intro videos, and I don't know how they even get students because they're just hard to watch. Another tip is to write out bullet points, but do not memorize. So they are going to have you cover certain things that you have to say in these videos, but you don't want to have it memorized. You don't want to sound like a robot. You want to sound nice and friendly, speak slowly. This isn't just for the admin, it is for potential students. So if you're planning on teaching lower levels, think about the words that you're saying, the pace that you're using, and practice. You don't have to just film it in one take and have it be perfect. You can, film it over and over again if you need to. And definitely stay within the time limit. Don't have it be too short or too long. A demo video. So demo video is different. This is like a sample of your class, and this is seen by the platform. I was trying to think, and I don't really think that students are going to be seeing this unless you're a freelancer and you have it on your website or your social media and you want people to see a little snippet of your classes. But normally for marketplaces and companies, the students aren't actually seeing this. Follow all the directions, as always, with all of this stuff. You may be asked to share a sample of your own lesson. So maybe you have to kind of create your own lesson. They may provide slides for you, or it could even be a live demo. So I personally haven't done a live demo. I think I might have done one once, but I've always done recorded demos. I think maybe for GoGo Kids, that was a live demo. For Lingo Ace, I had to do a recorded demo, but I know some people that have applied through my link have been asked to do live demos. So maybe it depends on if you have some experience already or not. For your demo video, there are a lot of examples on YouTube. So if you want to apply to different companies, search like, Cambly intro video or demo video or whatever, and you can see some examples. Practice this. This is a mistake that I made. I applied to GoGo Kids back before it got closed down. I did not practice enough and I did not get hired. So I know why I didn't get hired. I just did not practice enough. The timing wasn't good. I didn't use enough props. So practice a few times and make sure it looks good. You may be asked to film on their platform. So they may have some sort of whiteboard that you can film directly in, or you can film it on your phone again, or using a webcam. And if you're asked to use props, definitely use those props. This is more for teaching kids, but some of these companies and marketplaces are going to ask you to use a certain number of props or show how you use a puppet, things like that. Okay, another thing about getting started as an online teacher is confidence. This is the number one thing that I get from new teachers is I want to get started, but I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to teach on Zoom. I don't feel confident. I just did my TEFL course. I have no idea what I'm doing. So here are some tips for that. Feeling nervous is normal. I still feel nervous when I'm applying to new companies. Like I don't know their platform yet. I don't know what they expect from me. I don't know what the students are like. I don't know where anything is on their little whiteboard. It is nerve-wracking, but that's just part of it. It's like anything new. It just takes practice and it takes time to feel more comfortable. For new teachers, I suggest asking your students for feedback and then writing reflections after each class. So when I did my student teaching for in-person teaching, that is what we had to do. After every lesson that we taught, we had a little notebook and you would write about what went well, what went wrong, how you would change the lesson next time. And that really helped me understand my teaching, compare it with some of the veterans that I was observing, and just get an idea of how to grow as a teacher. New teachers, you're not expected to be perfect, but you are expected to improve a little bit with each class, and then it will become second nature. So that's the hard thing about getting started as a teacher. It's super hard when you're starting. Like there's just so many variables, but the good news is it does get easier and easier as you go. Talking about observations, see if you can observe a veteran teacher. This is honestly like how I learned how to teach, is I surrounded myself with different mentors and observed their lessons. Again, I took a lot of notes on what I liked, took some of their activities, tried them in my own classes. There's a lot of games that I still play with my students that I learned like, I don't even know what, like 20 years ago. From different teachers that I've worked with. So even if you want to teach online, you can still observe teachers in person and then just kind of adapt those things for online. And focus on how you're helping your students. It's always scary to think like, oh my gosh, I'm on camera and I don't know what I'm doing. But if you just focus on that person that you're helping and helping them improve their skills, maybe they want to study in another country or maybe they want to be bilingual, that's a lot easier to focus on than thinking about yourself and how scary and nervous it is. Okay, our last little section before we go into the live Q&A, a roadmap to success as an online teacher. So how can I kind of do this as a career? How can I do this long term? If you're just getting started, start with companies or marketplaces depending on your experience. So if you're a brand new teacher, 100% start with companies unless you're a non-native speaker, then start with marketplaces. If you have some teaching or tutoring experience, feel free to just get started with the marketplaces. And you want to slowly build up your schedule. Try and have maybe 1 or 2 or 3 companies or marketplaces that you're working on. Keep everything organized using something like Google Calendar, and then that way you have kind of a full schedule. And for new teachers as well, don't try and pack your schedule right away. Give yourself enough breaks. Part of this job is that you do have that freedom and flexibility, so schedule that in. If you want to be able to have an hour-long lunch, schedule that in for yourself. Then as you're starting to grow, you can get another marketplace or maybe add on freelancing when you're ready. So once you've been doing the companies for a while, maybe you can graduate to a marketplace. If you've been doing marketplaces, then you can look into building your own freelance business. Expanding your business. So if you're at the point where you've been teaching online for a while, you're feeling comfortable, maybe you've started in marketplaces or freelancing, you want to think of ways to make more while working less. So this could mean larger class sizes. So for OutSchool, for example, we get paid per student instead of per hour. So I've had classes of up to like 14 kids. So obviously I was making a lot more per hour than teaching like on an ESL platform making, $15 an hour. You can also get higher pay for specialized classes. So if you do classes for doctors, for lawyers, for test prep, those kinds of things, that is more specialized, so you can be charging more for that. You can also think of adding pre-recorded courses. I have a bunch of courses for teachers that I have created on a site called Kajabi. You could create your own courses on YouTube as well, and then monetize your YouTube channel and earn from that. There's a lot of things that you can do this kind of more passive income these days. And you could also go the route of maybe you have some classes that you've created that are really, really successful and you have too much demand, hire other teachers to teach those classes for you. So on some different marketplaces, you'll have these big organizations that hire teachers, or maybe you start as a freelancer, you have too much demand, and you can kind of turn that into your own independent online school. So thank you for joining today. I just have a little special offer for you before we get into our live Q&A. But if you liked this training today and you found it helpful, I do have an online course that goes into even more detail, and it also has some resources on where to apply to all of these online jobs. So you can go to eslteacher365.com/course, and the code WELCOME2025 will get you 60% off of the course. This is only valid for 1 week. So if you're watching this live, you got 1 week. If you're catching up on the replay, make sure to check the date of when this video was posted. So just gonna get a little drink, and then we will get started with the live Q&A. Okay, I'm gonna sort through all of these comments, see if I can find some different questions. And we have where people are watching from: Bolivia, Toronto, Canada, High Art, Algeria, Wisconsin. I'm originally from Wisconsin. Hello. US, Taiwan, South Africa. Awesome. Okay. Let's see. So we'll start here. So Miss Mercy, English teacher, asks, are there online teaching job opportunities for non-natives? So for non-native teachers, try marketplaces. A lot of them don't require specific passports, but they'll just say that you need to be fluent in English if you're wanting to teach ESL. If you're wanting to teach other subjects, you can usually qualify for those as well. But for non-native speakers, if you're really wanting to make this your career and earn more, then I recommend looking into freelance teaching, because there's no barriers for you and you can kind of target who you want to target. For non-native teachers, sometimes you'll end up targeting your students in your own home country. So you can kind of help them because you've had to learn English and you know what it's like. Or you could target students in maybe a different country that's a bit higher paying. So some non-natives, if they're based in a country with a lower cost of living, they will target students in a country with a higher cost of living so that they can earn more. So those are kind of the best options for non-native teachers. Okay, HR says, how quickly would you say it could take a native teacher starting out to get to 2,000 to 3,000 euros a month? I'm looking at EU nomad visas, so need to get to that income. Fantastic question. So for people that don't know what a nomad visa is, there's a lot of different digital nomad visas that you can live and work in another country. Could be as short as 6 months. Some of the top ones are up to like 5 years. So this is a really nice way to legally be able to work in another country. So this is basically like teaching online while living abroad. So yes, a lot of these visas require you to already be earning 2,000, 3,000 or more euros a month in order to apply for the visa. And also be careful, because some of these, you have to prove that you've been doing this for a minimum of 12 months before you can apply for the visa. So just be careful. There's a lot of new digital nomad visas out there and not much information. So talk to your embassy and get kind of the newest info on this. But as far as how quickly that could take, you need to reverse engineer it. So look at how much you need to make, consider taxes that you have to take out and pay, because online teachers have to pay taxes. And then think about, are you teaching one-on-ones? Are you teaching small group classes? So that's really going to make a difference. If you're teaching one-on-ones, you might have to be charging a lot and choosing a niche like business English or medical English. But if you're teaching maybe a group of 6 students, they wouldn't have to be paying as much per student, but you would maybe be making more per hour. So you need to think about that a little bit. Also, are you offering pre-recorded classes? Maybe you do offer live classes and then you have some supplementary mini courses like pronunciation or vocabulary. So that's another thing that you can sell to your students. So think about it a little bit in reverse, how much money you'll need, the taxes that you'll have to take out, and then how much to charge if you're doing one-on-ones, small groups, a combination, all of that. And it really depends on how you're teaching. Obviously, for companies, you're only making $10 to $15 per hour before tax. For freelancing, honestly, the sky is the limit. If you can find someone willing to pay, they will pay if you can prove those results that they're looking for and your niche is in demand. Okay, what else do we have? Why do you choose to work for a company instead of being freelance if the pay is better with the latter? That's a good question. So for companies, you basically just log on, and a lot of the companies fill your schedule. You don't have to do any marketing. You're not paying for your own platform. You're not creating a social media, marketing plan or running ads, any of that. So for some people, they just want to log in, teach, earn their money, go about their day. Maybe it's their side hustle. Maybe they don't want to do this full time. So that's why people teach on companies. For freelancing, there are a lot of costs involved of setting it up, finding your students. So it can be very lucrative when you have everything set up and running, but getting started can be quite expensive. And some people just don't feel comfortable doing their own marketing. Maybe they're not as business minded. They just want to have that simplicity of logging on and teaching. So that's kind of why people would do that. Okay. JCC says, I have been in OutSchool for a while, but it has been slow. Yes. I will share a little bit about my own OutSchool experience. I got hired and I did my classes for beginner reading skills. So I also taught kindergarten in Spain. So I taught kindergarten and first grades. We did a lot of like pre-reading and reading skills. And so that's how I got hired. And I did some of those classes and they were fine. But then I thought maybe I'll teach dance. Like I have a lot of experience teaching dance. I'm going to figure out how to do that online. And since then, that niche, that topic has been so much more lucrative for me than teaching the reading skills. So if you're on OutSchool and you find that you're just not filling your classes, you need to try something new. I've done a ton of trial and error, even within dance teaching, like I did one-on-one classes. Those were really big for a while, then they started going down. Now I do the weekly enrichment and club classes. I also have some pre-recorded classes. So if you're not getting those bites, you need to go to look at your profile, see what you're offering, and see if you can optimize your profile and your class listings for search terms. So in all of mine, I have like beginner dance and ballet because that's what people are searching for. And also like fairy tales and things like that. And then there is an OutSchool Facebook group. I think it's like OutSchool Teacher Hub or something like that. So if you've been hired, you can go and post your classes and get people's feedback on them. So you can say, oh, it's just been really slow. I'm not getting students. Can you help me? And there's a ton of very experienced teachers on there that are willing to give you feedback. So that's where I would start with that. Okay. Let's see. All right, so now Cow says, I'm interested in freelance online teaching. May I know how to apply for that? So there's not an application. So you have to set up your own business That means that you need to decide, are you using Zoom to teach? Are you using something like Koala or Classin? How are you getting students to sign up for your classes? You could use something like Calendly. You could use something that's an all-in-one like superteacher.net. So you have to do your own marketing, find your own students, set everything up, which can be challenging to get started, but I recommend checking out that free guide because it will give you the steps, kind of step by step, of how to set up your own freelance teaching business. So if you missed that before, it's just at eslteacher365.com/handbook, and it's a free handbook on how to get started freelance teaching. Okay, let's see. So JD Moore says, I'm going with Lingo Ace on Monday. Exciting. I have a new laptop, so I won't need an old-fashioned webcam, will I? So good question. If you have like a laptop and the camera quality is good, that's fine. I would say the only difference is sometimes the webcams will give you a bit of a wider angle, so it can be better if you're using a lot of props and things like that. But just take a look at your computer, and if the camera looks good, there's no need to buy anything extra. Okay. Let's see some more questions. Okay, JD also asks, I have a few years of experience, but none online since COVID. What are some of the few top things for me to remember with Lingo Ace? Okay, so if you taught online in the past and you haven't done it for a while, the top tips are first checking to make sure like your background and lighting and sound are all good to go. And then if you're applying to teach kids, they are still very much about the props and TPR and all of that. So get some flashcards or get some different objects with different colors, or sometimes I use like dice in my classes. I use a whiteboard so we can do different drawings or write numbers, whatever it is. But just be prepared for that and then practice. So for the Lingo Ace demo, they give you some of their own slides to use. Practice with them a few times until you feel comfortable. Okay, let's see what else. So Arthur asks, for online teaching only, do you recommend the 120-hour or the 168-hour program? So I think you're referring to the TEFL Academy course. So for online teaching, if you have some teaching experience, tutoring experience, the 120 hours is definitely enough. You'll find that a lot of the companies offer like, these random 168 hours, super random. It's basically the same as the 120-hour course, but it's more in depth. So I've tested out both the level 3 and level 5 courses from the TEFL Academy. Very, very similar, but the level 5 did go into more depth. So it just means that if you're not as confident teaching or you want to learn more, then you can go for that kind of higher level 5 course. Just be aware that a lot of it is marketing. So they'll say like, the level 5 is a CELTA equivalent. No, not at all. I've taken CELTA and it was really intense. We had to do so many different assignments and readings and all of this stuff. None of these online courses, except for maybe International TEFL Academy, are anywhere close to a CELTA. So just be careful. If they're selling you things that are like a diploma, that does not equal a degree. It's just marketing. Okay. RW asks, how long did it take to go fully online? Well, as I shared at the start of the video, I'm not sure if you missed it, but I had to just kind of go from 0 to fully online because I was working in person and then our school closed down. So I started out freelancing with, I don't know, I had maybe like 8 students. And then I added on the marketplace, and OutSchool in 2020, when the whole world was shut down, was like a gold mine. So there were so many students on there taking classes that really took off. And then I started kind of YouTube and talking about teaching online. So I don't think I'll go back to in-person teaching. I honestly love teaching online and helping teachers online as well. I don't see myself going back into the classroom anytime soon. Maybe, but probably not. So it really depends on you and your schedule. I had a lot of time to devote to online teaching, so I just kind of went all in. So you can take it step by step. It can be a side hustle, or you can just go in 100%. Okay. Jibstar asks, what is the average hourly wage I should charge for a beginner with a TEFL cert? This is a good question. So it depends on, I'm guessing you're asking about marketplaces or freelancing. So it's more about what you are offering your students. If you're offering them just basic conversation classes, then you're going to be charging lower. But if you're doing something a bit more specialized, maybe it's even business English or interview English, anything that you're passionate about, then you can charge more for that. So the more specialized it is, the higher you can charge. And there aren't really any rules, like just try it. It's trial and error. So raise your prices and see what happens. On some of the marketplaces, I found that when my prices were lower, I got fewer students, maybe because they saw my classes as not as good. And then when I raised my prices, I got more students. And you'll find that that's very common in the online teaching world. So don't undervalue yourself, kind of shoot at that medium high range. And again, if you're not sure what that is, go on some of the platforms, take a look at the lowest, not paying, charging teachers, I guess, and the highest charging teachers, and then try and shoot for the middle high range for that. Okay. All right. Any other questions? So Tim asked, does your course guide provide information on how to use YouTube Live, which is what I assume you're using for this live session? So I actually use something called StreamYard, and it connects to my YouTube channel. And that's why it has like all these little pop-ups and different things, and I can change the screen, all of that. So if you're interested in teaching using YouTube and doing live lessons, which is definitely getting more popular and a fantastic way to teach as well, then I recommend checking out StreamYard. There's also one called Riverside FM. I've tried that as well, but I do like StreamYard more. So that's a good one too. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me live, if you came live. And if you're catching up on the replay, do leave any questions that you have in the comments, because I go through my comments pretty much every day and answer all of your questions. So I hope that you have a fantastic 2025. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'll put my email on the screen. So jamie@eslteacher365.com. Any questions that you have. If you're not on my email list, you'll want to be on that, because I send out an email every week related to teaching online. You can also join the Teach Abroad one as well. So thanks again, and Happy New Year. See you next time.